Hi there, I'm Al Wooden, aka the Skeptical Canuck, and it's time to get ready for a little food for thought. But before we do get started, don't be a town bike. Smack that like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're kicking it into overdrive and blasting out the news segments, conspiracy podcasts, and even video smoke sessions with my brand new co host, Steve the Professional, and some random guests, as well as upcoming swapcasts that I'm very proud to announce. So, without further ado, let's get into this article here. Canadian officials flagged over nine. Oh, I've got to share my screen here. Won't be much of a stream if I don't do that. All right. Let's get reading this article right here. Canadian officials flagged 900 food items from China with problems over the last 2 years. Items included gumballs with extraneous metal, chow mein that contained an insect, and much more. All right, so let's get on with it here. Canadian inspectors intercepted nearly 900 food products from China over concerns of faulty labels, unmentioned allergens, and harmful contaminants, including glass and metal between 2017 and 2019. Oh, and I just want to say before we go any further, this article is from July 14th, 2019, the Canadian Press. All right, so let's get back to it. The document provides an inside look at imports from China that caught the attention of officials for appearing to fall short of Canadian standards. From gumballs with extraneous metal to 3-minute chow mein that contained an insect to spicy octopus flagged for a non-specific hazard. The list, compiled by Canadian Food Inspection Agency, was obtained through the Access to Information Law. Its release comes at a time of significant public interest in Canada about cross-border food inspections, especially those involving China. The scrutiny of agricultural goods has been central to diplomatic dispute between Canada and the second biggest trading partner. Bilateral frictions have intensified since the December arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou in Vancouver, as China's subsequent detention of 2 Canadians on the espionage allegations. The governing Liberals have come under pressure from rival Conservatives to respond by taking a harder line when it comes to Chinese imports. In recent weeks, China asked Canada to suspend all of its meat export certificates to the Asian country after Chinese customs inspectors detected residue from a restricted feed additive called rasopamine in a batch of Canadian pork products. A statement by China's embassy in Ottawa said the investigation covered at least 188 forged veterinary health certificates and argued the Canadian system obviously had safety loopholes. All right. So, Chinese authorities have also blocked imports of Canadian canola seeds, alleging they found pests in some of the shipments. The federal government says it has tried unsuccessfully to send a delegation of inspectors to China to examine the evidence. It's like they don't want them to inspect the place. The economic consequences of China's trade actions on Canadian food shipments, as well as the detentions of Michael Krovig and Michael Spavor, are widely seen by as attempts by Beijing to pressure the Liberal government into releasing Meng. This list from Canadian Food Inspection Agency shows it's not uncommon for inspectors to raise concerns about imports from China. Between January 1st, 2017 and February 29th, 2019, and I want you to remember that date because I'm going to mention somebody starting working as a minister that happens to be from the area of China. And I want you to remember that because I'm not being prejudiced. I'm merely mentioning some weird facts. So remember, between January 1st, 2017 and February 29th, 2019, agency officials detected problems with 889 food or food ingredient imports into Canada from China, according to the document. Only 4 food shipments, however, from China were refused entry into Canada over that period, CFIA Quarterly Shows report. An agency spokesperson said that CFIA investigates concerns to determine if it's a hazard or fails to comply with Canadian standards. When necessary, she said, officials take action including minor labeling corrections, recalls, product seizures, entry refusals, and cancellation of licenses. Though it doesn't say when the last time that's happened. Huh. There's Marie-Claude Bibou, agricultural minister. So that's what her role is. And I want you to remember, this is the agricultural minister speaking. In a few moments, I'm going to show you a picture of the international trade minister, and I'm going to tell you a bit about her. And I'm not sure why the agricultural minister is commenting on something that has to do with imports, but I'm just trying to make the point here that what I'm going to mention later on, nothing to do with prejudice, okay? So just bear that in mind. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I love all people from all places, as long as they're not a-holes. All right. So the agricultural minister said in an emailed statement that the issues in the CFIA list do not necessarily correlate to a particular problem with imported food products from foreign countries. She said, this is a list of cases reported to CFIA that informs operational and follow-up activities to verify compliance and take any appropriate actions in accordance with the laws and regulations, Bibou said. The Canadian food safety system is strong and recognized as one of the best in the world, and the government is confident in all products approved by the CFIA as safe for local consumption as well as export. The list only provides numbers for China and does not include comparable numbers for Canada's other trading partners. Tariffs unlikely. Conservative leader, or former Conservative leader now, Andrew Scheer, recently called on Prime Minister Trudeau to step up inspections on all products from China and consider slapping tariffs on imports. Bibou's office said that Canada had no intention of increasing inspections on Chinese imports. Well, isn't that comforting? Let's all thank Bibou's office for that. Slovenia's Kwaku Asevakabor, not making that up here, an expert in agri-food policy, wrote an email that Canada would likely... What's wrong with the name John? Huh? Or Sylvester? Slovenia's Kwaku. Beautiful. Canada would likely take a long time before implementing actions against Chinese imports. Why is that, I wonder? Canada will always, and I'll tell you later why exactly that is. It's actually due to a huge investment in Asian production companies, but I'll get to that in a few minutes. Canada will always play to the rules and exhaust all democratic channels available through the international trade agreements, such as the World Trade Organization, wrote anyway, the assistant professor at University of Guelph. Any retaliatory action may result in a trade war that may negatively affect the two countries. Glenford Jameson, a Toronto-based lawyer with expertise in the food sector, said that the CFIA list provides an extra level of detail that's usually omitted from public documents. He added, none of the concerns flagged in the documents are highly unusual. Oh my, typical lawyer, eh? Typical Toronto greasy lawyer. The list, I wonder if he'd like to eat chow mein with an insect in it. I don't know. Maybe he's traveled to China and had that before. Probably paid top dollar for that delicacy. This list is a list that wouldn't be surprising from any other country, including the United States, and is really just a byproduct of having stringent food inspection and food regulatory systems, Jameson said. No food commodity is traded at 100% perfect compliance all the time. So, you know, making excuses. So before I get on to reading a little bit about the ministers that I had mentioned before and the fact that they're connected to China, I'm going to go ahead and read another article really quick about the U.S. and meat recalls rising between the same periods of 2017 and 2019. And they mention a few different things being found in there. So let's get to that real quick. Surprisingly, that came from CBC. Usually they're pretty poor reporters. So let's get into that. I'm going to have a sip of water before we do. Excuse me. Processed meat, and this is from the Washington Post by Kimberly Kindy, December 23rd, 2019 at 6 a.m. All right, so processed meat recalls rise dramatically as consumers bite down on metal, plastic, and glass. And there we've got samples of all three of those delicious spices and seasonings. Okay. Bits of metal, hard plastic, rubber, and even glass are increasingly getting mixed into and baked into processed meat products reaching consumers, triggering a record number of safety recalls, a Washington Post analysis of federal records shows. So far this year, the Agricultural Department has announced 34 recalls involving 17 million pounds rather, of meat products after stray materials were found in them. That's a sharp, no pun intended, sharp increase from a decade ago in 2009, when there are 5 such recalls involving about 1 million pounds of processed meat. Metal parts are breaking off of machines that mix, chop, and puree ingredients. Plant workers' rubber gloves are falling into the meat mixtures, and bits of plastic and glass from meat packaging and ingredient containers are getting ground into the food. Now, I want to stop it right there just really quickly and comment. Where is there glass in the meat packaging process? When have you ever seen a big thing in the wall that says, and it's a piece of steak behind glass, break in case of protein deficiency? I have yet to see that, so I'm not sure what they're talking about. Glass from meat packaging getting in there. To me, that's a little sketchy. To me, there needs to be a little bit more questions. Metal, I could see that. I could see rubber gloves. I don't mind eating a bit of rubber. The meat's probably rubber anyways. But how is glass getting in there? Okay, so let's continue with the article real quick. The makers of some of the excuse me. The makers of some of the most beloved and recognizable ready-made food staples have issued the recalls, which have included Tyson Foods chicken tenders, Jimmy Dean sausages, and everyone's favorite, ham in a can, imitation Spam. The stray items, which the USDA calls foreign objects, are typically found after a consumer bites into a meat product. Records show sometimes chipping teeth in the process. So not everything actually gets found in these thorough inspections that they do. Oh boy, the objects can cause choking and injure the intestinal tract. Yummy. There is an initial shock when you find something that clearly does not belong, such as a screw or shrapnel or packaging material, said Robert Rausch, a New York food safety lawyer. It's shock, it's disgust. The concern always is whether there were other pieces that you swallowed. It's like the old joke. What's worse than finding a worm in your apple? It's finding half a worm. Ugh. A number of changes are, and look at just real quick. Yummy. That this product was found to contain something bad in it. What was it? Doesn't say bits of plastic actually. It says right here, bits of plastic. So that's great. Yummy. I've heard rumors of fake rice being made of plastic, but that's I'm not going to get into that right now. Watch out, folks. A number of changes are causing the recalls to rise, according to the USDA and industry experts. Manufacturers are revving up processing line speeds to increase production, sometimes using old equipment that breaks down under the added strain. Consumers are taking their complaints public, naming the companies on social media and including photos of the contaminated food often. The USDA reporting requirements for the contamination in response to a congressional mandate became more stringent in 2012. Fun fact for you guys out there, it doesn't mention this, but in 2012, President Obama actually approved the re-endorsement or the re-passing or whatever of the Smith-Mundt Act, which legalized the use of propaganda on the American public. So just a little fun fact for you out there. I sure as hell do not love Mr. Trump, but I sure as hell don't love Mr. Obama either. Trudeau is not the only one caught wearing blackface, in my opinion. Obama has been caught many times. The USDA acknowledges that the consumer complaints about the contamination are on the rise. It issued guidelines in March to food manufacturers to get them to respond more quickly to reported problems, saying companies sometimes issued recalls only after multiple consumer complaints. Only after that. 2 months after guidelines were issued, Tyson Foods announced it was said to be the largest U.S. processed meat recall ever on a foreign matter contamination. Metal shavings may have ended up in as much as 12 million pounds of chicken strips. Now, I gotta say, I've heard of prizes in boxes of cereal, but I think this has taken that a little bit too far. Recycling is great, kids. You know, I hope that those chicken tenders at least had a free packet of sauce in them. Wait till the end of the story. There's a very funny thing mentioning what somebody gets for finding one of these metal things in their chicken strips. But hold on. We'll get to that at the end of the article. Let me take a sip of this. Water. It's not vodka, folks. All right. So, yes, yummy. All right. Oh, sorry here. The recall was expanded once, adding nearly 11.8 million pounds of chicken strips to the original recall of 69,093 pounds. So that's over 70,000 pounds of chicken strips, or tenders, whatever they're called, and involved 6 consumer complaints, 3 with oral injuries, records show. Details in the USDA excuse me, recalls notices are sparse. Tyson Foods declined to respond requests by the Washington Post for more specific information regarding victim injuries. It also declined to explain how the food became contaminated or how the problem was resolved. In a prepared statement, company spokesman Worth Sparkman said, "Instances of foreign matter material in our products are rare, but if they happen, we move quickly to notify those affected and take corrective action." Only after multiple complaints, though, as you heard a few moments ago. The Post examined more than 150 USDA recall notices for foreign object contamination from 2019 to this year. For each recall, the Post recorded the manufacturer's name, type of food, pounds of recalled product, type of foreign material, and the manner in which the contamination was discovered. So, whether or not someone cut their tongue or bit down upon it, broke a tooth, that sort of thing. I'm sure they have a big checklist. The analysis showed the spike, again with the spike, no pun intended, before they said sharp. The spike in recalls began in 2016. Pieces of plastic accounted for nearly half of the recalls for foreign objects, and metal for nearly 25%. The rest of the recalled food contaminated was either with rubber, glass, cardboard, or wood. Yummy. Okay. Processed meat products range from raw marinated meat, considered semi-processed, products that are ready to serve after heating. Most frequently recalled were sausages and breaded chicken products. Deli meats, beef stews, meat-filled burritos, hamburger patties, and chicken pizza were also recalled. Chicken pizza. Although many of the recalls involved millions of pounds of processed food, not all that was necessarily contaminated. Okay. Companies stamp processing dates and locations on product packaging, so when contaminated food is found, products produced at the same plant during the same time frame can be pulled for safety. The USDA does not have the power to order a recall. Well, a lot of good that does, eh? Oh my goodness. Government agency can't even issue a recall. My goodness. All right. It can only recommend one based on what it knows about the contamination of a product. Faster reports. The industry is chafing, looking at some 2012 federal reporting requirements. I mean, I guess it means considering them. Anyways, the regulation requires that some companies provide more safety details to the USDA when they find contamination, that they do so faster. The agency also requires notification when contamination doesn't reach the consumers but is discovered midstream, such as when beef is mixed into stew and a processing plant, or honey glazed ham is sliced at a deli counter. Texas-based Eddy Packaging issued a recall last year for 49,558 pounds of smoked sausage after a restaurant told the company that pieces of white hard plastic were found embedded in the sausage while slicing it. A recall notice said the problem was resolved client to client without the involvement of the restaurant's customers. Records showed the incident still had to report it to the USDA. Mark Dopp, a vice president with the North American Meat Institute, a trade association, does not think the requirement is needed. These companies have very sophisticated tracking systems that allow them to quickly find and destroy the contaminated food. He said, Eddy Packaging did not respond to requests for comment. Meat industry officials say the new requirement to report contamination midstream, as Eddy Packaging did, probably accounts for most of the recall increases for foreign matter contamination. So think of where all that was going before they increased that. The post-analysis of the USDA records shows that the reporting requirement is a contributing factor, accounting for about 20% of the recalls in recent years. Recalls are skyrocketing for meat products. Consumers are finding metal, plastic, and other foreign objects in the food. So it shows here from 2009 to 2019. I'm not going to try to explain that graph, but the source is the USDA. Again, I don't know why agriculture is handling this stuff. It should be import. I mean, actually, I think this stuff is probably from some of it's from America. It doesn't really say here in the Washington Post. All right, so I'm sure some of it is, though. Come on. Some of the food manufacturing and market experts have a different explanation for the increase. They say the growing problem can largely be attributed to running old equipment at increased speeds to meet growing consumer demands for processed meat. Nothing like saying meat twice in a sentence. All right, so a lot of production lines out in use today were built several decades ago, said Robert Rogers, a senior food safety advisor at Mettler Toledo, which produces X-ray machines and metal detectors to locate foreign objects in the food. The equipment could have been designed to run at 10 feet per minute, and now they're running at 40 feet per minute. So typical kind of just negligence, you know. Rogers and several food safety experts said that poor maintenance of the machines and a lack of surveillance at critical points alongside the processing line play a role. Excuse me. Pilgrim's Pride, owned by food processor JBS USA, and I think JBS is a Chinese linked company, but we can check that later, said equipment failure caused plastic contamination in 2016 that led the company to recall more than 5 million pounds of chicken nuggets, patties, and strips. In a statement to the Post, the company said the recall prompted it to intensify equipment inspection and foreign material detection. All right, so I wonder how they do that. I wonder how they increase it. Do they have somebody bite into random pieces or something? 3 USDA inspectors, speaking on the condition of anonymity because they feared retribution, obviously, also said that the faster line speeds, antiquated equipment, and poor maintenance are playing the largest role in the increase. The inspectors, along with food safety experts, say they should spend more time at processing facilities, unlike the USDA inspectors at slaughterhouses, where federal workers must be present at all times during operation. See, that makes a lot of sense. Inspectors at the processing plants sometimes spend as little as 1 or 2 hours at the plant before jumping to the next one. This means inspectors have to review the plant's written procedures for preventing contamination, but little else. If all they're doing is checking the company's own paperwork, they aren't inspecting. They're doing an audit, said Tony Corrabo, senior lobbyist for the nonprofit Food and Water Watch. The National Chicken Council, whose members produced 1/3 of the recalled products, said manufacturing upgrades to their equipment models less prone to breaking, flaking, and crumbling. They are also using X-ray machines, metal detectors, and other technology at various points along the processing lines, not just at the end. So I just want to note that when you X-ray food, you're actually contaminating it with gamma radiation. So you can look that up. If you don't believe it, folks, look it up. I might not have a grade 9, but I ain't going to tell you stuff that I don't know for a fact without saying that's my opinion. Now, ready to serve. Eating habits might be a factor in the increase. The rise in recalls coincides with the growth in consumer demand for ready to serve and ready to cook meals, according to annual surveys conducted jointly by the Food Marketing and North American Meat Institutes. In 2016, 30% of customers said they sometimes or frequently purchase processed meats, compared to 62% this year, according to the surveys. Metal detectors and X-ray machines, which are commonly used in processing plants, catch much of the contamination before it reaches consumers, but the technology has its limitations because meat contains iron and niacin. Metal detectors must allow for some metal and mineral content, which means screws and metal shavings from malfunctioning equipment can slip through. Oh boy. Bone, muscle, and other tissue contain iron, niacin, and other metals. See, I didn't know that was actually metal. But hey, I guess you learn a lot in grade 9 there, eh? Said Dopp with the Meat Institute. You can't set the machines to a highly sensitive level or they'll go off even when there's no contamination. The USDA and the industry both said consumers who still trigger about 80% of the recalls. Oh my goodness. So of all that screening equipment that they have, 80% of the recalls come from consumers biting into this stuff. It seems like they're misrepresenting this earlier when they said, oh, even though so much gets pulled, only so much of it is actually dangerous. Yet 80% of the recalls are triggered by people finding stuff in their food. Have multiple channels they can use to register concerns and complaints. Most companies and the USDA have a toll-free number listed on food packaging. Manufacturers and the USDA also have electronic forms on their website. The USDA says consumers who wish to report food safety concerns may call its hotline at the number provided or report the complaint online at the website provided, foodcomplaint.whocares. Many consumers take their complaints straight to social media. And that's what New Jersey resident Nick Norelli, this is the funny part, Nick Norelli did last year after his then 16-year-old daughter told him she nearly swallowed a piece of metal the size of a popcorn kernel that she found inside her chicken nugget. Here is the social media reply. At Tyson Brand, my daughter was eating some of your Tyson Fun Nuggets. Oh, they're fun. The other night and bit into a piece of metal. Norelli wrote in a January 5th, 2018 tweet that included a picture of the nugget and the metal. Thankfully, she didn't choke or break a tooth, but this is unacceptable. Oh boy. Choice words. Norelli shared the post direct messages, and he and Tyson Foods representative exchanged over Twitter, in which Norelli asked what the company, and which was Norelli was asked by the company to send the piece of metal and the product packaging so it could investigate. Yeah, so they can get rid of it. Not all the complaints result in a recall. Sparkman and Tyson Foods spokesman, oh my, said the company determined the object did not match anything in our processing plant. Also, there were no similar concerns raised by other customers. So, that's their lawyers talking, isn't it? Not all complaints resulted in a recall, Sparkman and the Tyson Foods spokesman said. Determine the object did not match anything used in our processing plant, and also there was no similar concerns raised by other consumers. So he's flat out lying right here. He says there was no other similar concerns, but it even says up there that they found stuff in a bunch of the chicken nuggets, 60,000 pounds of it or something like that. Or I might have read it wrong, but do you really take his word for it? The guy's a damn fun nugget salesman. I don't believe a fun nugget salesman for a minute. All right. For his trouble, Norelli was sent coupons for 2 free packages of chicken products. I used them, he said. I thought it was some sort of freak thing. I guess not. So it looks like the Washington Post, of all sources of fine information rather, had to tell this guy that it actually happens a lot. So maybe you shouldn't have settled for 2 free packages of chicken products. I mean, not even a lifetime supply, not even a year's supply, but 2 free packages of chicken products. Oh, one of them didn't turn out for you? Here, have 2. Or actually, have a free one, so you can have 2, not 3. So that's the end of that article there. And that was by Kimberly Kindy, who is a national investigative reporter for the Washington Post. In 2015, she and her lead reporter on the paper's Fatal Force Project, which was awarded a Pulitzer Prize and the George Polk Award. So I'm not sure if she's too reputable, but that was a very good article by her. So let's go ahead and check out what I was talking about really quick. We're almost done here, and then I'll give you my own personal notes on the matter. I've only been reading so far, but I've got a bit to say about this one. Now, remember when I mentioned over here that the agricultural minister, Bibu, down here, we've got her beautiful mugshot here, the criminal she is. All right, so Bibu is the one who commented on this, as did the agricultural commissioner in the States. So I'm not sure why the agriculture minister is commenting when Mary Nig, Mary Nig, I don't know how to say that, Nig, is a Canadian politician serving as the Minister of Small Business, Export Promotion, and International Trade since 2018. But if you wait a moment, I'll tell you she actually started in 2017. I'll tell you that in a moment. A member of the Liberal Party of Canada, she has been a member of Parliament MP for the riding of Markham Thornhill since election on April 3rd, 2017. So actually, she's been there since 2017, which is right when the recalls started to rise in Canada. So, yeah. Early life, she was born in British Hong Kong. Is the eldest child of three in the 70s. NG's parents immigrated to Canada from Hong Kong, later establishing family-owned restaurant in Toronto, Ontario, along with her brothers and sisters. She grew up working with the family's restaurant. She graduated with a BA from the University of Toronto Scarborough in 1996, majoring in political sciences. So that's right around the time that Theresa Tam, the next person I'm going to mention, actually joined the government as well. So yeah, not too much about her on here, but I'm wondering why someone who was born in Hong Kong, whose people in Hong Kong have been long oppressed by the Chinese government, is silent on the matter when she's in fact the Minister of International Trade and export promotion. So I'm not sure who handles import promotion, but or imports rather, but it seems like she's got at least something to do with that, being the Minister of International Trade. So why am I bringing that up? Well, it's real simple. If you were from Hong Kong, you obviously probably have some extended family in Hong Kong. Now, if we know anything about the CCP, the Communist Party of China, they're very brutal. They'll do pretty much anything to anybody, and they've been caught doing intimidation in the past. And right now, as you know, or may or may not know, Hong Kong in the last year has gone through some real protests and struggles for democracy. Now, people say some of it might be influenced by the CIA, but you can't tell me that if you live next door to China, who wanted to force upon you not only extradition treaties, but also increased surveillance stuff where they're monitoring your face and using social credit on you, when you're supposed to have a treaty with this superpower because, you were formerly a province of British Hong Kong, things can go bad quick. So I'm wondering why she has nothing to say on it. It doesn't seem like there's too much about her down here, but I'm going to go ahead and show you guys real quick to make my further point, Theresa Tam. Now, Theresa Tam is a Canadian physician and public servant who currently serves as the third Chief Public Health Officer, the head of the Public Health Agency, initially acting the role following the retirement of her predecessor, Gregory Taylor, in 2016. She was formally appointed in 2017. So right around the same time that all these recalls started happening, I would say that this has something to do with the health and the public health of Canada, so the Public Health Agency. Again, Tam was born in British Hong Kong. This is her early life, and grew up in the United Kingdom. She attended medical school. So why isn't she serving there and stuff? Why isn't she doing stuff with the UK? The University of Nottingham, earning because UK's got way too much say in Canadian affairs. Sorry, but that crown and the whole involvement with their process, that does mean something, actually. We need to get the Queen's assent before we pass laws. True, she never said no, but have any radical laws really been proposed? Tam completed her pediatric residency at the University of Alberta as a pediatric infectious disease fellowship at the University of British Columbia. And what year was that? It doesn't say. Maybe it does down here. All right, so Tam, a pediatric infectious, I promise you this is going somewhere. An infectious disease specialist, was assistant deputy minister to the infectious disease prevention and control branch at the PHAC. Tam was I think I can skip over most of this, but I will say Tam was a co-chair of the 2006 Federal Report on Pandemic Preparedness in the wake of the SARS international outbreak in Canada, which envisioned the respiratory infection pandemic that was described by the Globe and Mail, foreshadowing the 2019 blah 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 pandemic with eerie accuracy. So she's supposedly very familiar with respiratory illnesses. She's an expert, in fact. So let's go down a little bit down here. Tam has played a leadership role in Canada's response to the public health emergencies, including severe acute SARS, pandemic influenza, H1N1, Ebola, and COVID-19. Now I'm going to get picked up by the censors. If you didn't know, you can Google this, and I might do an article on it. The vaccines for H1N1, which happened in, I think it was 2009. Look, 2009. Okay, actually killed a lot more people than H1N1 did. I'm not making crap up. You can cite me in the comments if I'm wrong. But yes, the vaccination to H1N1 killed more people than swine flu did in this country, and I'm pretty sure in the States too. So Tam is on the Independent Oversight Committee of the Health Emergencies Program of the World Health Organization. And I'm going to mention some very troubling stuff about the WHO in a few moments. She took the role between April and June 2018. Tam is an official advisor to the WHO, International Health Regulations Emergency Committee. So right there, she's a member of two different World Health Organizations. Now, before I even get into the links to China, right there, that's something that's not part of Canada, not part of Canadian interests, and it is a foreign-run entity, which has known to be sponsored by billionaires and by the Communist Party, who is one of their biggest donors, if I'm not mistaken, their second, right next to Billy Boy Gates. So here we have what I was trying to get to. And this really does involve the national security of Canada, okay? So here we go. On 7th of January 2020, when it appeared as though there was a health crisis emerging in Wuhan, Tam advised Canadians, quote, there has been no evidence to date that this illness, whatever it's caused by, is spread easily from person to person. No healthcare workers caring for the patients have become ill. A positive sign. That doesn't sound like Yoda wrote that statement at all. It is a positive sign being. All right, I might get in trouble for that one. Anyways, that's how Yoda talks. He's supposed to be a wise Asian kind of a character, you know, kung fu and stuff. Nothing bad about what I just said. All right. Ooh. At the end of January 2020, Tam said no reason to be overly concerned about COVID-19. On January 23rd, Tam was a member of the WHO committee that broadcast that it was too early to declare a public emergency of international concern. On the 26th of January, Tam stated there is no clear evidence that the virus is spread easily from person to person. The risk to Canadians remains low. And on the 27th of January, Canada confirmed its first case. On the 29th of January, she told Canadians it's going to be rare, but we are expecting cases. I could have sworn I read this yesterday, and it wasn't that. Mom, you're gonna have to wait. I'm doing something. So yeah, let's finish this up. On the 27th of January, okay, so in February, cases in Canada grew from 4 to 20. During this time, Tam authorized the release of Canadians who had been quarantined for 14 days after their reparation from Wuhan and several cruise ships. And if you've seen the pictures, there was 100. It was 156, I believe. I read the article, and they came right from Wuhan, not just from China, but from the infection zone. And they're saying that on the 27th of January, that was the first case. So it's almost like they were preemptively saying that. They could say whatever they want. But I will say, I will go on to read March. So yeah, the Canadians were quarantined for 14 days after their reparation from Wuhan and several cruise ships. March saw an explosion of cases in Korea, Europe, the US, and Canada, and the WHO declared COVID-19 to be a global pandemic. On 23rd of March 2020, Tam began appearing in several public service announcements, urging for public hygiene and social distancing again and unnecessary travel. The announcements will last until at least the end of April 2020. So, the expert flip-flops after she brings 156 people right from Wuhan. And if these people originally lived in China and they came to Canada, I'm not sure why they'd be going back and forth. But to me, they're a primary resident of China. And, we're putting ourselves at risk for that. Also, if it's people doing business there, let me say, if I was in charge and you were going to a communist country and this kind of stuff happened, I'd say, sorry, we got to look out for the rest of the country. But no, it all started just a few days before they did this. So I'm wrong, of course. All right, so I'm being unfair by saying that. Just crazy, a crazy conspiracy theorist. On the 6th of April, Tam changed her recommendation to wearing a non-medical mask. Even if you have no symptoms, an additional measure you can take to protect others around you in your situations where physical distancing is impossible where it is difficult to maintain. Because of new data about pre-symptomatic and asymptomatic transmission, Tam had previously recommended against wearing masks because it can sometimes make it worse if the person puts a finger in their eye or touches their face under the mask, and that can give you a false sense of security. So all that stuff is true, but if she's such an expert on respiratory illnesses, why wasn't she saying this in the first place? She's had plenty of experiences with pandemics. She's a member of the WHO, for Christ's sakes. She was the one who helped stop SARS. That's why she was brought on, because she's an expert. And on the 23rd of April, Tam was appointed by Justin Trudeau to a new advisory body, the COVID-19 Immunity Task Force, whose mandate declared the coordination of several serological surveys around the country. So we've got the prime minister appointing someone who's clearly incompetent and saying all the stuff. It's not, oh, don't worry about anything. It's non-transmissible from human to human. Don't worry about anything. Don't flip out. There's nothing coming. And then a few months, not even a month later, she's now appointed to this new board. So everybody knows that Trudeau is an incompetent dummy. He's pretty much just like an actor. He's there just to be the scapegoat that we all, oh, it's Trudeau, just like Trump. Oh, it's Trump doing all this stuff. You don't think that there's 100,000 people behind Trudeau pushing this country into the dump? Then you're not paying attention, okay? So I just read you a bunch of stuff showing I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not just making claims like we already discussed. If you've got family she's pretty old. I'm not saying she's haggardly or anything, though she kind of is. She's obviously got ties. She's obviously got family there. She only came here 20 years ago. She's 50 something. Okay. So, sorry. So therefore, she's probably got a lot of family right next to China. And like I said, the treaty just ended. So it's not like they could twist her arm and threaten her family or anything. Now I'm going to go ahead and read some notes that I have about this here. And yeah, then we'll finish her off. Actually, I'm actually redoing this. I was trying to do it a lot shorter, but it looks like I did it a lot longer. But I think I put a lot more feeling into it. All right, so like I said before, Mary NG, where is her comment? If she was in opposition to China, and the sort of Hong Konger who stuck up for her people against the CCP government, being the kind of former resident of China we want anywhere near our political system, she'd be loud about this issue and condemn China's lack of concern and bullying of Canada via unfair trade accusations, which are currently unprovable due to the fact that inspectors are not permitted on the premises of these Chinese facilities. Like they said, they tried to inspect and they weren't allowed. Theresa Tam, responsible for the lockdown recommendations being endorsed via the WHO, she stressed that the virus had no indications of spreading human to human and brought over a plane of 156 people right from Wuhan. Check the number. I guarantee I've got that one right. The cases climbed from 4 to 14 and the pandemic began. Okay. This is my personal opinion. Okay. We've seen this. We've seen the defense minister, he wasn't born in Canada. Okay. So this is not his home and native land. Okay. So in my personal opinion, all this stuff happening, I'm going to mention a few things in a moment, but anyone born outside of Canada should be ineligible to participate in federal level politics. Municipal is fine, but China's influence has become a dangerous issue, being ignored by most of the media and the country's population. Now, I'm not saying that someone couldn't come from a foreign country, build themselves up, and be a great mayor, or be a great, what do they call that? Minister of, like, we've got, premier. Sorry, folks, didn't pass grade 9. Premier, but they could be a premier. I don't think that that's federal. Okay, that's even provincial level. But to have them in the federal politics, it's clearly causing a problem. Now, our current national defense minister, like I just said, was born outside of Canada, and he was the national defense minister during the largest mass shooting in Canada's history. During the bringing of 156 people from China mid-pandemic in China, when the danger of the virus was pretty evident to anybody who, has half a noodle. During the deal being forged with the Chinese government to run Chinese government corporation that involved pieces involved in a dense defense communications satellite, which were sensitive to hacking to be used in the production of it, that seriously compromised the security of Canadian Armed Forces, national security, secrets, and our allies, was advised against by CSIS, the RCMP, CIA, FBI, and other U.S. police and security agencies. And let's not forget the $450 billion investment from Chinese, or $450 billion investment to a Chinese government-owned investment fund. So earlier I said there's a conflict of interest in them saying, "Oh no, we're not gonna beef up the inspections. We're not gonna do anything more to check into it." Why is that? Because they stand to make a killing, a literal killing and a figurative killing off these profits. $450 billion investment. That's no small sack of potatoes. It's about 2 or 3 times the total GDP of Canada, if I'm not mistaken. You can go ahead and check that yourself. So no, there's no conflict of interest in the government standing to profit from Chinese imports like food and other things that may or may not be dangerous to our health. Not at all. And just think, Jagmeet Singh, hell, he's a handsome fellow. I'll give you that. But where are his loyalties at, really? Can we really trust someone whose home and native land is not on the line? And I think it's time we enforce some of our sovereignty here and banned non-Canadian born people from becoming prime minister and participating in federal politics. This is a nation of about only 45 million people. That's a lot bigger than the US geographically. So we're way bigger. We've got way less people. And we're still allowing people from anywhere in the world to come and jump into our federal politics. So, I mean, not that they're the biggest threat. Look at Justin Trudeau. He's Canadian, and like I said, he's mostly just a figurehead, but could be saying something for us, could be doing something for us. We need to protect our interests here and not the rest of the world's. We have a smaller population than most nations this size, and therefore we're more vulnerable to foreign influence. And one more thing before we end this segment off. What made me look into this, you ask? Well, I saw a Facebook post from a friend. Someone I know personally, not someone I talked to from Mafia Wars or some crappy farm book or whatever the heck it's called. And she was talking about finding a piece of glass, a nice chunk, in her peanut butter with her tongue. That's right. She had to call an ambulance and be rushed to the hospital. Thankfully, she was okay, but she took a spoon of extra crunchy, right? Or, sorry, it wasn't a spoon. It was a piece of toast right out of her 2-year-old son's hand before he was about to be subjected to whatever Kraft had put in that jar of extra crunchy peanut butter. So he almost ate a piece. And yeah, so of the 900 food items flagged, sure, there were some that might have been left through. But what about the items that were not flagged? And what about the questionable nations of import like India or any other less reputable country with abhorrent human rights abuses? It's time for us to take responsibility and demand we stop taking food imports from the CCP-run communist nightmare of slave labor that is China. Okay? People like to squawk about Russia all the time. Russia's got great human rights standards compared to China or even India for that matter, and they're not our second biggest trading partner. Okay, so we need to start doing more business with our neighbors and more democratic and trustworthy nations. And mostly, I want to really stress this. We got to demand an end to foreign members of federal parliament. There's 2 levels below that they can get involved with. But after all the stuff we've seen, I got to scream this at the top of my lungs. Why are we letting somebody who wasn't even born here be prime minister or be our national defense minister? At very least, those 2 things should not be open to someone from America. Imagine someone from America came over and became prime minister. South Park made a joke about that. Oh, Donald Trump is actually our prime minister in that. So it could happen, folks. When he's done there, he could come right over here. And don't think it won't. Do you think that many people voted for Justin Trudeau? Everything is rigged, okay? So we need a parliamentary overhaul in general, though. Like I said, it's not just people coming from other places. Most of the problem is from inside this from inside this country. You know, our parliament should be and was designed to be filled with community members and people who have a stake in the communities that they represent. Meaning, residents can be the only ones representing their ridings and neighborhoods. So you can't have fucking Tom and Jerry from Toronto representing some little Muskoka community. It's just not right. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. Representative government looks like this: school teachers, firemen, and even trustworthy police officers, business owners, and even knowledgeable working class heroes. Hell, if a janitor has something to say and he's got a good opinion, then maybe he could be on the board. You know, there needs to be something different here going on. We got to think outside the voting box. We really do, because they've got this stuff wrapped up and we're dancing like puppets on a string. You know, but not career politicians who make a buck selling us down the Yangtze River. And that's a river in China, if you didn't know that. And certainly not people who can't say that they weren't born in Canada, who can't say they weren't born in Canada. It's nothing racist about what I said. I'm sure that there's another Sikh, and that's the religion of Jagmeet Singh, by the way, the NDP leader. So I'm not a total ignoramus. Okay. I'm sure there's another Sikh who was born in Canada that could represent the NDP wholeheartedly, or another party with passion. And not to mention, the NDP platform under Singh is utterly pathetic. It looks like a cell phone plan. Better coverage, lower monthly rates. I'm not kidding. I'm going to do a segment on that too. But that's another video for another day. Anyways, I just want to say thank you very much for watching. And again, not trying to piss anybody off with my comments tonight. I'm trying to make people think what's really going on in Canada. I've got to listen to so-called conservative people complaining about immigrants, complaining about people coming here and getting welfare, complaining about people who are from here that are getting welfare. And that's the reason that our country's in such dire straits, in debt, getting pushed around by the world. It just doesn't make sense. Look at the Chinese connection. Hell, look at the American connection. They've been taking our oil for nothing, and I hate the oil industry. We should just stop it. Forget global warming. Forget all that stuff. 80,000 people a year in Canada, or sorry, I think it's about 40,000. Look at me, dummy, are dying from pollution every single year. So forget global warming. Forget all that stuff. That's debatable. It's up in the air. Who cares? I don't really care. People are dying from pollution every year, and that's just directly air pollution. That's not water pollution. So, thanks very much for watching. Remember, we're all citizens of Earth. We're all citizens of Eden. This is a paradise we're living in. A wonderful planet. You plant a seed, you can grow some weed. You plant a seed, you can grow a watermelon. You plant a seed, hell, you can grow some wheat, make a beer. But we got to stick up for this place because you know what? No one else is going to. So, thanks for watching. And hey, go ahead and click here or here for something fun, and here for another informative video. Thanks for watching.